Shanaz, is that you? Where's that Sharon?
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Sahava. I was thinking that maybe they're going to get you to go down to Florida, but they didn't.
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of work remotely and like not yet, you know what I'm saying? Until people, you know, the families are still really there by the site and waiting for news and you know, I will still yet go. But I've been very busy with it.
What exactly is happening? Like, what are you doing for them?
What am I doing? I've been in touch with, you know, members, friends, and that type of stuff.
Wow. Did you see that they have a whole contingency from Eretz Israel? So I was
Yeah.
you know, I was reading in the news here that that they asked they should bring from Eretz Israel because they didn't trust them over there.
Yeah.
And
Can I tell you something that I was thinking about yesterday?
Yeah, tell me.
So, you know, we've been learning Baruch Hashem, and you know, you have at least me very. So we've been learning so much with you, Baruch Hashem, and you have at least me like focused on the four elements and Shem Havaya, like the four elements, Shem Hashem, and we're definitely in Ikva de Mashiach here. You know what I'm saying? Like the Nisyonos are just coming fast and furious.
Fast and furious.
As labor pains, for childbirth are fast and furious. Yeah. So I was really thinking, like in terms of my work the last few years here, that I'm really seeing the four elements. 2 summers ago, it's only now 2 summers ago, the entire summer was water tragedies. There were a lot of
I'm not hearing you.
Like 6
you know why? Because
that.
she's in the country. She doesn't have good klita. She's out, so we're not hearing you, Zahava.
You don't hear me? I'm gonna go inside. I don't know why you shouldn't be hearing me. 1 second. Okay, do you hear me better in here?
Much better.
Okay. So again, I, we learned so much from you regarding the four elements, and they relate to Shem Hashem, Shem Havaya, and again, we're now like Ikva de Mashiach, the labor pains are coming fast and furious. So I'm just thinking in terms of my work and these labor pains. So 2 summers ago, there were a tremendous amount of water tragedies. Okay, starting from the very beginning of the summer until the very end of the summer, there were a lot of water tragedies. The Hanukkah right before that, it wasn't Hanukkah, it was in the winter right before that, 6 months before that, was, I don't know if you remember, the Sasson fire, where 7 children died. And a few months later, in the same neighborhood, there was also a tremendous fire in a Jewish family where a couple of people died. The coronavirus really was a matter of not breathing the air.
Yep.
And here, the last few months, we've had so many people, Hashem Yaracham, being buried alive.
Crushed.
In the earth.
That's it. Okay, we're Yotze Zion. We did all 4. You know that in the Kriya Shema Alamita of the Ariya Kadosh, he has a little paragraph, which I don't really say. Maybe I say it a few times a year. And it talks about the Arba Misos based in Skila Sreifa Herek Chenek. And that in the Kriya Shema, in the Tefillah there, it says, if I did the following Avera that is Chayev Skila, so let me now accept it as if it happened to me, and I should be Yotze Zion Skila. And the same thing with the other 3. So the first time I read that, I was like horrified. I was like, oh, I can't say this. It's too scary. But yeah.
Isn't that incredible? Like
it's very, very incredible that you see. See, that's how you develop eyes to see. That's what's called having eyes to see. Because once you see that Hashem structured the world in 4 elements, 4 letters in Hashem's name, everything is in that category, everything. And not just that, but because Hashem created the world or sustains the world or pours his energy into the world through the 7 sefirot, so everything is parallel to them also, everything. And so I don't know if I told you this, I told somebody this, told some class, years and years ago, and I still lived in America. So I went to, whenever Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg would come to America, I would like go to whatever classes he was teaching. So he once gave a class in, I don't know, some very fancy hotel in Manhattan on the structure of business and how to make money and how to structure your business. Now Baruch Hashem, my tchum is not business. My tchum is Torah, teaching Torah to women. And I'm incredibly privileged to do that. And the truth is, I have an aversion to business. I have an aversion to like these kinds of having to do with money and dealing with things. And I really don't, I don't have a strong earth. And in my earth, what I do manifest in my earth is more organizational. And I don't have a strong fire when I do, but my fire is in my number 4, which is in the ability to reach out to people, to be with people. But I don't have business skills and I don't like business. I like stay far away. But that was the only lecture he was giving in the New York area. So I went to it just because I wanted to hear him talk. Because whenever he would talk would be like chidushim. And so I went to this whatever in this fancy hotel, and all these very, very fancy, rich business people came, Jewish and not, with yarmulkes, without yarmulkes. Women were dressed and all, and he gave his shita that every single business has to have the 7 levels. And he talks about how every business, in order for it to be balanced and to succeed, it needs this. He was doing it then. He did the 7 sefirot. Some of his shiurim he does in the 4 letters of Hashem's name. And some of this, that was all he was teaching, was whatever topic he was teaching was either in the 7 sefirot or the 4 letters in Hashem Havaya. So I remember sitting, and he gave that. They did a very fancy thing for him. They published like a thing. In the end, they published a book from it. I don't remember anything other than just enjoying hearing his Torah. And he's also not a business person, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Galay and I did take off, but once you start to see the world like that, that's all you see. That's what you see. That's how you see the world. So kol hakavod that you saw that. And let's hope that we're in the end, of all of the nisyonos. We know we're at the very end because, as you said, they're coming fast and furious, one after the other. These contractions. All right, so we're petering out towards the end of this month. So let's do let's do some letters of the Aleph Beis. Let's just continue from last week. A few of the letters, whatever we can learn from the Aleph Beis letters, because everything in the Aleph Beis is also gematrias and rearrangements of letters, composite letters. It's all one big topic. This morning I was meditating on the following. I don't know if this is kosher what I'm about to tell you. So if it's not, Hashem should forgive me and you should ignore it and forget about it. But I was trying to think about the concept that, ein od milvado, there's nothing but Hashem. And what is Hashem and what are we compared to? That whole, it's just like before davening, I was sitting on the porch, it was beautiful and I just was thinking. And I tried to imagine, I'm also having to do, actually towards now in the summer, I have to do a lot of practical things. And I really have an aversion to it. It's very hard for me to deal with these kinds of things. So I was trying to imagine a huge, huge, huge bubble encompassing the whole universe. And that entire huge bubble that's encompassing the whole universe is in Hashem. Like, we're safe. There's no place to go. We're all in Hashem. Of course, it's a very abstract thing to try to visualize because Hashem is not, we can't visualize him. But this idea that we're all part of Hashem, Hashem is everything. We are part of that everything. Everything is one. even though everything is multiples. So everything is really, coming from the letters of Hashem's name. And Chazal tell us that the letters of the Aleph Beis are all made up of multiple yuds. Now think about, remember, go back to geometry, 10th grade math. And you know that there's a point, there's a line, and there's a plane. Point is a little dot, and a line is a bunch of little dots connected, and a plane is a bunch of lines that make a flat surface. Then you could do 3D, 4D, whatever. But the point of the basic structure of the physical world is a point, right? Like take any surface, now they have with pictures, because they are called pixels, right? Pixels. You could take a picture, a photograph, and then you could break it down into like trillions of little tiny black and whites or colors. The idea is that it looks like a beautiful picture, but really it's made up of trillions of dots. Each of those dots is a nikuda, is a point. So the smallest letter in the Hebrew Aleph Beis is the Yud, first letter of Hashem's name. And so all the letters are really just different configurations of Yud. So that's the first thing we have to know. Yud is a Yid, a Jew. Yud is the first letter of Hashem's name. Everything is made up of that, of the Yuds, taken together. So our name, as we know, our Hebrew name is and whatever name you have is one of the simanim, just like you have, your 4 elements, and you have your birth chart, and you have the month that you were born, and the yontif of that month. You also have the parsha that you were born, the day of the week that you were born. The Gemara tells us we did every day of the week, right? The Gemara says what every day of the week has a description of. So you have a lot of information to go on, but also the letters of your name. The letters of your name are the building blocks of the kochos that you have. Everybody has different kochos. Look at Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe has a mem and a shin and a hey. Okay, now we know all about Moshe Rabbeinu. And by the way, all Moshes, anybody with the name Moshe has a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu. Anybody with the name, any biblical name, that's why it's good to give your kids biblical names, because then you have a little bit of a spark of the neshama of the person, or an association with that person. So Moshe has a mem, because he was taken from the mayim, from the water. He has a shin, because that's the fire element. And he has a hey, because that's Hashem's, the letter of Hashem. The hey is Hashem in this world, Hashem in higher and lower. So there's Moshe's name. So what does it mean? It means he has a water element, a fire element, and a godly element. Which is the middle letter of his name? The middle letter is his balancing letter. That's the shin. The fire balanced him. And that's why when he overcame his fire, he became the most humble person. Remember the medrash that says some king, right? Remember the story? Some king wanted to see what Moshe Rabbeinu looks like. So he sent one of his artists to make a picture of Moshe Rabbeinu. You know the story? You know this medrash? You know this story? You know the shanas? Yeah. So anyway, he comes back with a picture of Moshe Rabbeinu. He looks like a horrible, fiery, angry, violent person, right? It could be that's the shin inside of him. That was the shin that he transformed into humility, into the most humble of all people. Okay, so and we said this before, the first letter of your name is the strongest, most overt power that you have. The last letter of your name is the most hidden. You have it, but it's the most hidden. You have to work at it. The middle letter, or the middle letters, if you have an even number, there's 2 letters in the middle. If you have an odd number, there's 1 letter in the middle. That's your balancer. That's what keeps you grounded and balanced. Yeah? Okay. Most letters in the Hebrew Aleph Beis are composite letters. So let's go through. You'll see that they're all composite letters, meaning now The aleph, you know, right? The aleph is a vav and two yuds.
What does that mean,
And
composite? What do you mean
a
composite?
composite letter means it's a letter that's made up of other letters. Like, I can't draw on the screen. Can I draw on this? Let's see.
Like an aleph is made up of two yuds and a vav.
Correct, exactly. I want to show it to you. Let's see if I can. We don't have a drawing. We only have a typing. Let's see. Okay.
So is a resh described as just a larger vav?
No. So there, it's very, very interesting. So what are the primary letters? The primary composite letters are the yud and the vav, right? Okay, Zion is also a little bit of a composite letter. Resh is also a simple letter. Let's look at the letters because there's very interesting. There's the composites. The composite letters are all repeats of the same letters rearranged. And believe it or not, the most often arrangements of letters is the chaf and the vav. I'm going to call you back, okay? 45 minutes. So the aleph, you know, is the vav and the yud and the yud. And so the gematria of aleph. So now you're going to do gematrias, right? So aleph is 1, but aleph is also 26 because vav is 6 and yud is 10 and yud is 10, so 26. Now we know that 26 is the name Havaya, right? Hashem's name, his ineffable name, his unpronounceable name. Yud Ke Vav Ke, Yud is 10, He is 5, Vav is 6, He is 5, sum total 26. So that's the primary number that most of the letters are going to add up to. Most letters add up to 26. Or you'll see there's certain patterns of letters. Now, what does this do for you? It makes you feel very nice, very happy. If you have an aleph in your name, then you have Hashem's name in your name. You have aleph is Yud Ke Vav Ke. What about a beis? Okay, so a beis is a complicated letter. It's on its side a vav on the bottom. On the bottom is a vav, and on top of it is a dalet. On top of it is a dalet, and I don't know how to draw on my computer, so you're just going to have to bear with me. The bottom is a vav lying down. That's the bottom, and the top of it is a dalet. That together makes a beis. So what? Yeah.
Oh, why is it a dalet and not a resh?
Because the resh is round with nothing on top. A vase has a little thing on top. One little thing on top.
Like that little kind of knob on the right.
Yeah. No. No.
I'm not thinking of the tip. I'm thinking of the other side.
On the other, yeah. Its corner is not as round as a resh.
Right.
And by the way, there's a lot of counterintuitiveness to this, but because this is a sefer that the Sofrim who learn how to write the ksav, right? They learn how to write it according to the composite letters. And there's only one letter that's a difference, Ashkenaz and Sfarad, you'll see in a second. Okay. The Gimel, believe it or not, is a Zayin with a Yud. And the Yud is upside down, it's the foot. So a Gimel is a Zayin and a Yud. Now, I don't have, let's see if I have my chart here. 1 second. I'm going to show you this just to see.
So a base is 10. Is what you're saying.
A base is 10, correct.
Okay.
A base is 10. 1 second. Okay. A gimel according to the nusach of the Ariya Kadosh. One second, I'm just gonna go and get my Sefer to show you the letters according to the way it's written in the Sefer Torah. One second. Here's the Gimel. And the Gimel you see is a Zayin and a Yud that's lying down. That's the Gimel. So that's 17. That's the Gematria 17.
Hello?
Nobody's
Speaking.
anyway.
Oh, yeah, and then I kept losing your number, and then Gedalia gave it to me, and okay, but I'm in a class now until, hold on, I'll tell you until when. Until 3. Do you wanna call me then? Okay, great. Okay, bye.
Come back to Laura. Okay, there you are. Here's the Gimel. There's a Zayin and a Yud.
Hard to hear, something happened to the mic.
I forgot to put it on. That's what happened to it.
Oh.
You see, I'm on summer vacation. I had everything. Everything is laid back. Okay, Gimel 17. So Gimel is 3, and yet it's a Zayin and a Yud. Okay, so the most that most people want in a name for a woman is a hey in their name, right? So let's look at the Dalit, and then we're going to see the hey. The Dalit is 2 vavs. Now, in this,
Wait, how can a dullad be 2 vavs?
yeah,
If you already told me that the base was a dullad, which was 4, as opposed to telling me it was 2
I know.
vavs.
It's a hard, yeah. So really, a Dalit could be, as you see, it's a vav and a vav. Now, you might say before that the base has a Dalit in it, the Dalit therefore should be 12, right? Yeah. It doesn't go all the way like that. It doesn't go like to the bottom.
Don't have to be consistent?
That's a good question. I have to think about how to answer that. I have to think about how to answer that. Okay, but here's the Dalit, and the hey is just the same Dalit with a Yud over here. So there's your hey. The hey is a Dalit and a Yud, which is 14. That's David HaMelech's Gematria.
So then we could consider base being 18 also, if we
You
wanted
could,
to.
yes, you could.
Okay, I can.
No, we can all consider base being 18 because Dalit is 2 vavs. Dalit is 2 vavs, so you can consider that as 18 also.
Okay.
The bottom line is that all the numbers in the composite letters, the numbers themselves of the composite letters are also significant. So, so 26, you have 26. Then for Bays, you have either 10 or 18. For Gimel, you have 17, Gematria Tov, the value of Tov. Dalit is 12, the 12 tribes. Hey is 14, David HaMelech's name. Then you have Vav and Zayin. The Vav and the Zayin are basically primary letters, meaning they're not composite. But look at the Zayin. I just want you to look at how the Zayin looks in the Sefer Torah. Okay, so it has 2 parts to it, even though it's a primary letter. And it has a crown. And so Zayin, believe it or not, is considered with Hey as females. Now, there's a lot of lessons to the Aleph Beis, but one of the lessons here is that this Zion is a female letter, and she has a crown because of the pasuk, Eshes Chayil Teres Bala, that the wife is the crown of the husband. Also, if you look at that Zion and if you hold it in your hands, it will look like a sword. And you're grasping the sword, the head of the sword, you're holding, that's the handle, and the bottom of it is going to strike anybody. So there's a fierce woman who will fight to make sure that her family is safe, that Yiddishkeit is safe. That's the Zion. It's interesting because in general, a woman does not carry weapons. You know that? There's a shaila if a woman is allowed to carry a gun. Now, if it's a dangerous place, of course you can. But if it's not a dangerous place, it's stam, like you want to just walk around with a gun, that's kind of thing that men do. Well, women don't do. So if a woman just wants to walk around with a gun for no reason whatsoever, that would be considered kli gever. That would be considered kli gever, and a kli gever is forbidden.
So it's interesting that it's a female letter.
Yes, I'm saying it's ironic that it's a female letter. So I was just going to show you this, and I'm going to tell you a story about a gun and a woman. See, the ches is a vav and a zayin, but according to the Ashkenazim, it's a zayin and a zayin. So this is the only letter that in a Sefer Torah or in mezuzah, Ashkenazim and Sephardim have a different way of writing. The ches, according to Nusach Ari, according to the Sephardim, is a vav and a zayin, representing the unification of male and female. And in Nusach Ashkenaz, it's two zayins. So next time it's interesting when you buy a mezuzah for your house, so you should try to buy a mezuzah. All the mezuzahs should be consistent, should be the same nusach, and you should try to buy a mezuzah of the nusach that you resonate with.
The gematria for
Zion.
What?
The gematria for Zion is just 7 because it's primary.
Correct. Vav and Zayin are just 6 and 7, right? They're and so therefore they are the smallest letters in terms of gematria, because every other letter has a larger number to it. So Vav and Zayin have the smallest numbers, and that's why in order for them, the Vav and the Zayin, right, represent the basic male and female, and they will get along when they are both primary and most real, as opposed to put on or more than they really are.
So I'm confused.
No,
I
you're
would
not.
think that
You're
the,
never
that
going to
the
say
Zion.
you can.
I'm not
don't say I'm
confused.
confused.
I actually understand
You just say,
everything.
I have a
but
question. No, I
I
have a question.
Okay, so the Zion is the Yud with the Vav together?
No, the
No,
Zion.
what-
No, the Zion is a primary letter. It doesn't have a combination. It doesn't have, even though it has two parts to it, but the top is not a letter. It's its crown. That whole top is the crown of the Zion. And you can't break
Ah.
it. You can't break it apart into two letters.
So you're saying the Zion should actually be a 6?
No, Zion is 7. The
Right,
regular-
but if it's just the one letter, then it's a 6, then it's a
No,
Vav.
but because it's a Zion. It's a
Mhm.
Zion, so it is its basic gematria, and it doesn't have a secondary gematria.
Okay, all right.
Like Aleph, its basic gematria is 1. It has a secondary gematria of 26.
That's why you called it a prime number. So the
Correct.
6 and the 7 you're describing as prime numbers
And not
because
prime
they
numbers,
don't have,
not
because there's
prime,
no composite.
correct. Not prime
Okay.
numbers
Not
mathematically.
like, right, no,
But
yes.
prime numbers in terms of they're the smallest letters. And again, the thought being that a Vav and a Zion can be in order for them to get along, they just have to be themselves. They don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be made of anything. Just be you. And you be you. Don't try to be something else. Then you get along. Then that's the chuppah. The chet is the chuppah that brings them together. Everything else is complicated, and the numbers are higher. So I'll tell you an interesting story. One of my, I'll call her a teacher of mine, even though she's a colleague, but I just love her. I'm not going to say who it is because you'll see in a second why. But so a wonderful woman here in Yerushalayim HaKodesh, a wonderful teacher. So she has one of her daughters, when I was still living in America, this story goes back 25, I don't know, maybe even more years ago. So her daughter was getting married, and this woman lives very simply. You know, they're both teachers. She and her husband are teachers, and a lot of kids. And so one of her daughters was getting married and was moving to a yeshuv in the middle of nowhere. They were, again, this is 25, maybe even 30 years ago. And so she sent me a letter that she needs, you know, her daughter's getting married, B'Shat Tova, and if I want to send a gift, I can chip in for the pistol fund. Now this is a long time ago, before emails. It was like regular mail, and then I was thinking, like, what is she talking about? And then she, on the other side of the page, she said, and you might be wondering what's a pistol fund, an egdach in Hebrew. She said that this daughter is moving to a yeshuv in the middle of nowhere, and everybody has to carry a gun. So instead of buying her fancy linen or a beautiful platter to serve whatever, she just needs a pistol. She needs an egdach, and they're very expensive. She has to take lessons because she has to pass the licensing and whatever. So could I please contribute to the pistol fund? So now that lady is, you know, now must be already a bubby. And so, kach hazeh po ba'aretz. But stam to walk around with a gun, a woman shouldn't do.
But can I just say something?
Sure.
Like just on a personal level? I'm so happy to learn this. Like I knew that the Zion was like the weapon and whatever, but it's just for my life, it makes so much sense that it's also a female letter, just because whatever Hashem gave me.
That's your letter.
But I'm saying, like, I'm a very strong, independent person, and I'm named for a man. My Zahava, I'm named for a Zev, and I have a lot of that. But I also have the two Hayes, like the Zev became the two Hayes, which is the most feminine. It just makes sense. Like it just totally makes sense.
The truth
like
is that your whole name, every one of the letters in your name is feminine, because the base is also feminine. The base is the receiver of the Aleph. Aleph is Hashem. The base is everything that receives. So your whole name, even though it's a very strong name, as we said, it's Gevura. Zahav is Gevura. Zahav, right? But it's all feminine letters. It's interesting.
Do you want to just quickly tell us which ones are feminine letters?
So there's a teaching that goes like this, but it's a little bit, it's hard. It's not so consistent, meaning here's how it goes. Aleph is a male and female, and Beis is a female. Why? Because the Aleph represents Hashem, one, and Bet is the Bria, is the creation, everything else. So Hashem is the giver, and the creation is the receiver, the ultimate receiver. So Beis is a bait, is a house, is a home. It's a woman, it's a female letter. Now, that's easy to see, the Aleph Beis combination. Gimel Dalet is also easy to see. Gimel is giving, is a male aspect of giving, and Dalet is receiving. Dal is poor, is receiving. That's easy to see. So Aleph gives to Beis, and Gimel gives to Dalet. So Aleph is a male, Gimel is and Beis is a female. Male giving, right? The giver is the male, and the male energy. And
I thought you actually said that the Aleph was both male and female.
No. The Aleph, listen, the Aleph is
Hashem.
Hashem. It really goes above male and female. But since you have to have some choice here, because Hashem is not an Aleph, right? Hashem is represented by, it's like one of those ways to describe Hashem as one. What does that mean, Hashem is one? Hashem is above the concept of anything. Like he's, even that bubble that we're all in, that's in Hashem, that is Hashem, what is that? That's what
So then what you're saying is that diagram with the sphere where we've got the letters in between all those lines.
Okay,
that I would see.
That's something else. That's something else.
So it's not going to be consistent.
It's not, that's what I was going to say. It's not going to be consistent.
Okay.
Hey, as you know, is a female letter. So it stands by itself. It doesn't have, right? Hey is a letter of fertility that we want a woman to have. That's right. It's a female letter. When you add a hey to a word, yeled, you add a hey, yalda, it makes it female. Whenever you have a noun that can go either way, so the hey, when you add the hey to it, it makes it the female version. So hey is a female letter. Now you just learned that vav and zayin, vav is male and zayin is female. But then you have this other thing called ches. Now ches is like the base. It's a home. It's a chuppah, right? It's a unification of male and female. So now what do you do with that? It's not either, and it's both. So it represents the concept of unification of male and female. That's what the chuppah does. Right? The chet looks like a chuppah. Yeah? Here's a chet. It looks like a chuppah. Looks like a house.
So you said that the ches is both male and female?
Correct. It's a unification of male and female. So it's not both male and female, it's a unity of both male and female. There's a difference between something that's both male and female. That's called androgynous. Is that how you say that word? Androgynous? Yeah. That's different than a unification of male and female. Unification of male and female is both male and female, but two. There's a male, there's a female. There's two people there.
Hmm.
So there's two there. That's why the ches is a unity letter. That's why ches is the middle letter of the word echad, yachid, meyuchad, yichud. The chet sound is the primary letter there.
And it's the 13 and it's purification.
Correct.
And it's the 8, so it's above basic reality.
Of nature. Yeah.
And I feel like also everything else that the chet represents are things that both male and female go through.
Correct.
In
Exactly.
other words, like chet, everyone sins. Chayrus, Emir Tashem, everyone's gonna,
Amazing.
experience. Chaim, everyone has chay. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that the chet,
Not just that, but you have there, as you see, the name Chaya or Chava and the name Chaim. You have it in male and female. You don't have that with every name, that you have the male version and the female version. So, but with Chet, you do. Because Chet is two. Two is a unity of two, male and female. Now, the interesting thing is, let's look at the first Chet in Torah. Okay, we know by heart, Bereshis, Bara, Elokim, Es, Hashemayim, V'es, Ha'aretz, Ha'isa, Tohu, V'avohu,
Choshech.
Choshech. Oh, the first Chet in the Torah is Choshech. Choshech means darkness. Now, you know the Rambam says, and all the tzaddikim teach us, the Rambam says it's about concepts. I think maybe Pirkei de Rabbi Akiva says it's about letters, that when you want to find the root of the root of the root of the letter, look at the first time it appears in Torah, or the first time it's the first letter of a word.
Oh.
So v'choshech, so choshech, okay, it's a choshech, right? But then let's just try to find out where the first letter of the next, right? Where's the first? It's choshech also the next time it sees, right? Okay, let's look at tests, and you'll figure out what's a test.
Female.
Well, what's the combination of the letters first?
Oh, I'm thinking it's like a womb, so.
Yeah, but look at the letters. What letters do you?
Put the Zion.
Yeah, there's a Zion for sure. Now, what's next to the Zion? A chaf. It's a chaf. No, it's a chaf. Next to the Zion is a chaf. The test is a chaf and a Zion. 27. Zach. Zach means pure. Now, we're going to learn something about gematrias that's very cute. It might seem a little bit of a stretch, but it's really considered part of the gematria rules of gematria. So what's Hashem's name? The gematria of Hashem's name is 26. Yud Ke Vav Ke, right? 27 is also 26. What does that mean? This does not work in physics or in nuclear dynamics or whatever. Don't try to build a rocket ship and be one off on anything. But in Gematria, we're allowed to do something called add the kollel. Kollel means the letter one. The letter one, the number one, is representing Hashem. So when you take a gematria of anything and you add, you're allowed to add one to it, and that's considered the same number, even more elevated maybe. So tet, which is, yes, the womb, which is pregnancy, of course, that is 27, which is 26, the gematria of God's name, plus the one, which is God. So it's like,
Male.
it's like, no, it's like reinforced Havaya, like reinforced godliness. And it can't be a male letter because it represents the womb.
Mhm.
So here's a different part of the story. This test, which has a year of Zion, which is the primary female letter, right? This test is also a female letter. Represents the womb, represents the 9 months. The gematria of test is 9, in addition to 27. The
And
primary,
Nine
Huh?
is, and 9 is, I don't know math, but 9 is like a root of 27, no?
that's right. 9 times 3 is 27, right? It's probably the only number that has like that its base is also a factor of the, of the higher number. But here, Tet has to be a female letter because it has a sign in it and it's about pregnancy. So,
Is Het connected to Reish? Because Reish is also Rechem, no?
so the primary word of Reish isn't Rechem. Rechem is one of the words of Reish, but that's not its primary. Its primary is actually Rosh, which is the head, not the Rechem.
Okay.
Okay, so Tet represents pregnancy. But what do the men wear every single day?
Talis.
And,
Tzitzit. Tefillin.
okay, but,
Talis Katzon, Tzitzis.
okay, how do you say tefillin in Torah?
Pe'er, isn't it something Pe'er, something with Pe'er?
V'hayu le
Totafos.
totafos. So interestingly enough, the tet becomes totafot. It becomes tefillin. What are tefillin? Tefillin are a home for the parshios that are written inside of it. Right? What is tefillin? The boxes. The boxes have inside of those boxes, it has compartments, little tiny parchment with different parts of the Torah written on it. So there's a tet. The tet is the container which things are born from. That's a tet. And that's why not a lot of names have tet in it. And not just that, but the Shvatim, if you go through the Shvatim,
One
Reuven,
second,
Shimon,
so why not? Why not?
wait. If you go through the Shvatim, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, etc., none of them have a tet in their name. In order to have the tet on the Choshen, they had to write Shivtei with a tet, Shivtei Yeshurun. Now, why not? Because it's too hard. Tet is a very hard letter it's a hard letter. It's not an easy letter to actualize, that you're constantly giving birth, constantly, transforming, because Tet is a transformative letter.
That's so interesting.
It's
So
a
like the
hard
name
letter to
Tova,
have.
the name
So
Tova.
therefore, Tova and Tuvia, you have, listen, Moshe Rabbeinu's name was Tuvia, that when he was born, they gave him
Right.
the name Tuvia because everything was Tov in the house, right? So, but it's not a popular letter.
That's so interesting because they're constantly it's like a pressure to constantly give. Is that what you're saying?
It's a constantly not nourish, nurture, grow, develop, It's a high pressure letter. It's not one of those letters that has a lot of words in Hebrew. It's not like a yud or an aleph or a hey or a vav that every other word has one of those letters in it. Tet is unusual. There are certain unusual letters that
That's
are
so
scarce.
So fascinating.
Why, you have a kid who has tet?
No, my grandmother, my mother's mother was Toba, not
Toba.
Toba with a B.
Yeah, I wonder about that name Toba. I've met people whose name is Toba, and I wonder why they call it Toba, not Tova. And in Yiddish, they spell it sometimes with an aleph at the end. And they call it Toiba. I never know why I have to think about, I don't know, maybe I could research that. I told you that there's a book. I haven't gone to Hebrew University in many, many years, but there's in Hebrew University library, you can go and you can go in the stacks and just take out books and read them. You can't take them out, but you can read them there. And there's a very fascinating book there.
No, but first of all, I love learning this stuff. I have so much, of course, I spoke to you, but like now, I mean, she was just Nefteris. It's now like a year and almost a half.
Really? Your grandmother?
My grandmother, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
how old was she?
92. I mean, something, Baruch Hashem, she lived a very long life.
Yeah.
But now, Baruch Hashem, but there are a whole bunch of babies named after her.
Wow. And they gave the name Toba or Tova?
Toba.
Toba.
Yeah, but people don't know. Not that I'm saying that, like, I'm saying she was worthy to be named after, but like,
wow.
But people don't know. Like, people don't know.
They'll find out. Sometimes a person gets a name to give them strength because their soul is weak, so they need the energy of the opposite energy to strengthen them. And sometimes a person gets a name because that's them. And then, whoa. Ooh. Mazel tov. Laziness breaks things. That's what I just did. Okay.
So is Tuf and Tet the only two letters? And I don't know Hebrew well enough, but are they really the only two letters that actually have the same sound?
Which one? Tav and Tet?
Yeah.
No, not really. Kuf and Kuf have actually more of the same sound than Tav and Tet. Because the Tav, believe it or not, because Tav has two sounds, right? Tav and Sav, or Tav and Thav, depending on if you're Yemenite and if you have the old fashioned. The only real is Kuf and Kuf. Those two have undisputable the same sound. And Tav and Tet, partially. Because you can pronounce a Tav with a dot. I forgot how they pronounce it. Maybe that is a T sound. Maybe it is a T sound. Now look at, interestingly, the letter Yud is also both masculine and female, but it's mostly male because it's the first letter in Hashem's name. So that represents giving, Chachma, the first of the Sefirot. So the Yud is a male, primarily a male letter, but it has to also contain female because a Yud is a neshama. A Yud is a Yid, a Jew. A Yud is a Yad, and you know that in Hebrew grammar, Yadayim are female, are feminine. Any part of the body that has doubles, and there's two of it in the body, is female. Like you say, Yad Chazaka, not Yad Chazak. Even though Yad doesn't end with a hey, but it's conjugated in the female. So Yud is primarily masculine, but it has an aspect of feminine.
So Samson Raphael Hirsch does use a Tet and a Tuf, and although he also uses a Dalet. Is he also working with these systems?
Say it again. He what does he do?
Well, if he's got a word like tot, or he could use it he could do dot with a Tuf, or he could do dod with the Dalet. He could replace it. So he does use a Tet and a Tuf, in that way.
You're talking about when he's transliterating?
When he does what he does. When he does, is this backwards? I'm showing it to you
No,
backwards.
I
I'm
can see it. That's a sefer by Reb Shamshul for Hirsch. He's just
It's this, it's the etymological dictionary.
right. So there, I don't know, does he talk about the letters or he just tells us the words?
He does, there's something in the beginning that people
Yeah.
like me always skim over, talking about the letters and how it's done.
So here in Israel, I'll give you an example. In Israel, if they want to translate the letter T, they use a tet. Like telephone is spelled with a tet. Televisia spelled with a tet. But if they want to do a TH, then they use a tav. Like mathematics, mathematica is with a tav because mathematics. So the first is a tav because it's a TH. And then the end is a kuf, is a tet because mathematics. So the TH is a tav and the T is a tet. But that's just modern Israelis. That's not necessarily, significant. Okay, so what do you do with all of this? So it's just interesting, first of all, to learn the Aleph base is a gigantic topic. As I said, every letter is months and months of thinking about. Rabbi Akiva wrote a sefer on this. So we're just skimming. But looking at your name, looking at the names, looking also at the date of your birth, the Hebrew calendar date, if you're born, let's say, in Chav Zayin. So now if you're born in a Chaf and a Zayin, you know the Chaf and Zayin is also connected to Tet, because the Tet is made up of a Chaf and a Zayin. So you know that it's a day that's very pregnant. Kaf and Zayin is also Zach, it means pure. It's just learning these letters. It opens us up to something that is much deeper than just learning about letters. Because it's like learning about the elements of the world, meaning when you learn about gold and silver and oxygen, hydrogen, so you're getting a concept, not just, and then you expand that as you go through life. That's why on the first word of the Torah, Bereshis, there's a sefer on how many different first of all, how many different words you can get from it, right? So there's 6 letters in there. So it's 6 factorial, 720 words that you can get from the word Bereshis, not using all of the letters together, like Bereshis, Beis Reish is a word, right? Bar is a word, Beis Aleph is a word. Like there's so many different words that you could use just from, no, there's more, 6 and 5, yeah, right. 3, 120, 720, right? And then how many words can you get from rearranging, like making, like it says about Bereshis, the word Bereshis represents the word Rosh Bais, that this is the head of the home. That means that the Torah is teaching us the concepts of creation. That's really what that means. That's what Bereshis means. It doesn't just mean in the beginning of the creation, right? It has a lot of different meanings to it. Okay, now I just want to show you a very quick thing. I think we talked about this, I just want to say one more time about the story of these first 10 letters. Because the way that the Aleph base works is it goes the first 10 letters, that's primary. Then Chaf jumps to 20 and Lama jumps to 30 and all of that. Then you jump to the hundreds, right? So let's look again at the story of the first 10 letters of the Aleph base. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. The Aleph represents Hashem. And Hashem Beis made a creation. Hashem made a creation. That's what Beis is. It's the creation. It's everything. Everything that's other than Hashem, so to speak. Even though nothing is other than Hashem, but everything that Hashem made. That's measurable and that's physical, and because Hashem is unmeasurable and unphysical. So everything that's measurable and physical, that's called Beis. Beis means 2, it means multiplicity. So you got Beis. Okay, now, then Hashem made concepts, Gimel and Dalet. Hashem made the concept, the idea of giving and receiving. Those are primary concepts. The giving and the receiving concepts are categories. Giving is positive, receiving is negative. Negative means chaser, it's missing something. Giving is male, receiving is female. Hashem made concepts. First it was Hashem, and then he made a creation. He made something other than him, so to speak, within him. Then he made the idea of concepts, ideas, giving and receiving, and everything in that category. Everything is either love or fear, right? Plus or minus. That's in the category of giving and receiving. Then Hashem made he expanded the creation, because the letter Hey is a three-dimensional letter. It represents represents width, length, and depth. That little yud is the depth. So Hashem he expanded the creation into what? Into Vav and Zayin, men and women, the male and female people, humanity. And then he wanted male and female to come together under the chuppah and then create a pregnancy and create a child. The yud is the neshama of the child. That's the first story of the 10 letters of the Aleph Beis. It's Hashem talking to us and saying, "This is what I want." What's the first mitzvah in the Torah? Pru Urvu. Pru Urvu means Hey Vav Zayin Ches Tes Yud. Hey means expand the world. To Vav, man. Zayin, women. Ches, chuppah, the home that could bring them together. Tes, the pregnancy, the development of their relationship. Yud, the neshama that they can create together. I can't believe it. It's 3 o'clock already. Then Chaf, Lamed, Mem, and Nun. Those are all activities that we're going to teach this neshama, etc. This is a little bit of the story of the Aleph Beis letters.
Beautiful.
A little bit.
So you told us if there were 6 letters that they made 720. Is that correct?
Yeah.
700. Okay. So the Hebrew alphabet would be considered 27 combinations because of the bet and the vet, etc.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So how many does that make?
27 times 26 times 25 times 24. That calculation. It's called 27 factorial. Actually, it's even more because you could use double the letter, you could use letters twice, so it's times 2. You could use times 3. It's a huge number of how many words can be made in any language. It's the factorial of the number of letters in that language multiplied by the number of letters in that language again. So
somebody must have calculated.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody did. Listen, the word Beis Aleph, that's a word. Now, Aleph Beis is also a word. And Aleph Beis Aleph is also a word. So from those 2 letters, right away, we found 3 distinct words. Right? So that's how it goes. It's 27 factorial. I forgot the calculation. Plus maybe another 27 I have to, no, because you have double letters, triple letters. There's enough words to keep us busy for a while, right? How many words do we have in the Torah? How many?
600,000? Is that true?
That's how many letters we have. And now you'll understand, by the way, if you count, there's only 3,000 letters in the Torah, 300,000 letters, something like that. So what is the 600,000? We have the teaching that 600,000 for the 600,000 primary Jewish neshamas. But now you see that there are that many letters are composite letters. So whenever you have an aleph, you can choose to make it an aleph, or you could choose to make it a vav and 2 yuds, and make 3 letters out of that. There were people who did that. They would count. They were called sofrim. They would count letters and words.
I've heard that we're actually on a system of 5. And so even though it looks like we're doing 4 elements, that there's actually 5 elements. The Chinese do 5 elements. So are we actually trying to do
I know,
five?
I asked this to a few people who know Chinese culture, and I never got a satisfactory answer because in the Chinese system, they have metal and they have wood, and we would probably consider both of them earth. They
Mhm.
also have water, fire, and air, wind, but then they have metal. They don't have earth. They have metal and wood. So I consider that, even though they consider that two separate um, categories, right? Because metal is wood grows and metal doesn't grow. In the earth, you have wood coming from trees, which grows, which was once alive, and you have metal, that means inanimate. And in the Chinese system, they have 5 parts to the body, 5 systems of the body, 5 energies. But I'll tell you that I like Chinese acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, I like very much. So, but it's, so how do we bring those two together? That there's the Torah tells us that there's 4 elements and the Chinese divide into 5. I don't
Well,
know.
it's the tip of the yud.
You could say that, but the tip of the yud is not going to be, it's not going to be, it's not going to take an earth element and make another earth element because they have 2 earth elements. The tip of the yud, if anything, would be a higher spiritual element, like a higher fire.
There's only 4 forms of destruction. There's only 4. What about chorus? That's not considered like a
What about what?
chorus being cut off?
Kares.
Yeah.
No. These 4 are not 4 parts of, these are not, the 4 elements are not about 4 elements of destruction. They're about 4 elements of function.
Right, but
One of
Zahav had mentioned that there were 4 connected to, there's stoning, there's fire, there's stress.
That's the
there's
4, right, the
oxygen.
Arabis, right.
Right.
Listen, there's, yeah, the 4 basins, right, that's true. Kares, yeah, I don't want to go into Kares. And that
Neither
would be
do I.
the tip of the yud. What would that be? I don't know. But that I still don't think that would correspond to Chinese medicine because their 5th element, they take the earth element and they divide it in half. And one is metal and one is wood. And they don't call it earth, they call it metal and wood. And they say that the wood is more earth and the metal is more artificial, or I don't know what they call that. But
So-
I'll tell you something interesting. Years and years ago, right before I guess it was before Tisha B'Av, and I spoke to my traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, and I said, "Any tips on how not to be thirsty?" And he said, "Yeah, touch metal." I said, "What?" He said, "The metal element is somehow connected to the water element also." So I don't know. I never studied traditional Chinese medicine. It's funny because I've been doing a lot of spring cleaning today, and I found a book that I was supposed to be reading like about 20 years ago that one of my acupuncturists told me to buy, and I bought it. It's called The Web That Has No Weaver, and I just can't. It's so dense, but he insisted that I read it. So anyway, I had it in the back of a closet someplace, and I just found it. It's so full of dust. It's all crunched up. So I never studied that. But I know it's a system that works for me. I like acupuncture. So, but I don't know how it works. I can ask one of them, but they'll say that it's really 5 elements, but the Torah says 4, so it has to be 4.
But even in like the 4 cups, we know that there's actually 5 cups. And,
Right.
and all
And
sorts
the
of
four-
things in terms
you're
of
right.
the 4
The four-
questions, we actually know there's 5.
And the
4
4
cups,
letters,
that's 5.
and the 4 letters, there is a spitz on top of the yud. And the name of Hashem Elohim also has 5 letters. You're right. 4 morphs into 5. You're right. Good for you.
Can I suggest something though?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know anything from anything, but this is just, the 5th cup is Viga'alti. And, just sitting in my humble, unique place
The
of Hashem.
Heveti. The 5th cup is the Heveti coming into Eretz Israel.
But right. So to me, that's, Geula.
It's
Like that's
Mashiach, right.
that's Geula.
No, because the 3rd cup is Geula. The Hotzeti, the Hitzalti,
sorry.
the Ga'alti, the Lakachti, the Heveti. Yeah.
But basically it represents Geula.
Yeah.
That's what it represents. And I just feel like, with all these tragedies, with everything going on, like everything, a lot of people are trying to figure things out, right? Like that's what they're trying to do, to figure it out. Like you look at these chats and it's like, why another crumbling structure, and why this and why that, and how this and how that, and maybe the structure was unstable, and maybe Mayron was unsafe, and maybe this and maybe that, and like maybe that fifth element, that fifth cup, that fifth letter of Elohim, right? Because Elohim is din, is there to show us like, you're not gonna understand until Geula. There's that fifth element that represents, I'm God and your people. And you need to just believe that everything is coming from love and compassion, but there's an element of like, you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna understand why these things are happening. You need to believe that it's part of the process of Geula. These are the labor pains. And I'm sorry that it's bringing you pain, but like, you need to trust me and just hold on till that fifth cup. And maybe that's the fifth element.
That's great. There you go. There you go. That's what
So
you're,
to me,
that's a great
Because
thing
if you think about it, Hashem's name Havaya has 4 letters. That's the Midas Harachamim. But Elohim has that fifth letter of like, you're not going to get it. You're not going to understand Midas Hadin.
No, the spitz of the yud is that concept. The top of the yud is that concept of yud ke vav ke, and then the top of the yud, which is
right, but that has
get.
4 letters. That's the Midas Harachamim. But
Right.
the Elohim, that fifth letter, that fifth cup, that fifth element is stop trying to understand. I understand that I don't understand, and I'm not going to until Geula. That's part of Galus.
so it seems to me that that's the message of the Parsha. Moshe,
Wait, I'm sorry, 1 second. Oh my gosh. Galus has 4 letters. Geula has 5.
nice.
Good for you. Good for you.
So if you look at the message of the Parsha, Moshe did not have the message that Pinchas had. Why he didn't have it? Moshe is like the ultimate leader. What are we trying to do? We're trying to be leaders, and we can't get it. I cannot jump and be Pinchas if I'm Moshe. And if I'm Moshe, I don't know what the daughters need. I now need to speak to Hashem to get the answer for that. And then if you look at fallen leadership, Korach is a perfect example. But on fallen leadership, his children survive. His children move forward. The whole message seems to be, as we're struggling to be leaders, to figure it out. We're not going to get it. The whole Parsha is filled with it.
But you know what? As you know what someone said to me very clearly, part of Korach's problem, or maybe the main problem with Korach is he tried to bring Geula. He tried to bring Geula, and Hashem was like, no, it's not time for Geula yet. You're trying to understand Moshe, Aaron, division of leadership, kahuna, this, that. No, you're not going to understand now. No, it's not time for Geula.
You talked about that when you talked in Psalms, when you were doing the sons of Korah. Wasn't that, didn't you? Yes?
Yeah.
So Hava, you've got a wonderful mind. You're beautifully analytical. You think you're not mathematical, you're a mathematical. Mathematics is just building patterns. You build patterns.
It's not building patterns. I'm trying very hard to live with a Geula vision, and because it's what it's about.
Yes, Rat Hashem. That's what happens when this is called Pilpul Chaveros, when you learn Torah together. So it's like exponential growth. You just grow from each other. You network in Torah ideas, and you come up with these great ideas, great teachings in Torah, 4 or 5. Hashem is delicious.
Thank you.
Right. I guess we all have to go. I have so much work to do now. I'd much rather sit and learn with you, but I have a whole house to reorganize.
Thank you.
Next week is the last week for the Zman. And
So
then
I have,
I think we'll continue. We'll just finish another little bit. And then I have no idea what I'm teaching next month. Hashem will have to tell us what to do. I still want to do a sefer, but we'll see.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Good Shabbos. Stay safe.